While others were in elementary school, he was bleeding every day just to learn how to hold a knife. When others were falling in love, he was training day and night in wiretapping. He served as a spy, living with frostbite all over his body, and he survived countless brushes with death in a mercenary group. Decades later, he became a legend in the assassin world. And among all the top global combat organizations, only one name truly terrified them: the god of death, Peter. By then, he was already over 60 years old. His entire life had been dedicated to the company. Yet the newly appointed boss abandoned him simply because he was old and diagnosed with cancer. To that boss, trash should be thrown away. Hearing all this, he decided to retire. But the company sent countless assassins to kill him. And then, by accident, his aging body reverted to that of a 20-year-old. 3 months ago, after retiring, he opened a small bookstore. Every day, he followed the doctor's advice and took all kinds of anti-cancer medication. He wasn't afraid of death. After all, he had spent his whole life walking on the edge of it. 50 years of serving the company without hesitation. He had no regrets. And up until now, he didn't think he had any major regrets in life. But today, he suddenly realized he had never left behind a single photograph of himself. Just then, a high school girl walked into the store. She claimed she was here to buy textbooks for her younger brother. But a familiar scent made him pause for a moment. He quickly put on a warm smile to welcome her. She asked if there were any senior year study guides available. But as he turned to search the shelves, the girl quietly pulled out a dagger. He said calmly, "Leave now. Do that, and I'll spare your life." The girl froze. How did he know? He said coldly, "I've lived my whole life soaked in blood. You think a little perfume can hide the scent of death on your blade?" With just a single glance, the girl understood. The god of death, Peter, was not someone she could handle. Suddenly, he lunged toward her. He knew the company would activate Plan B the moment the assassination failed. While the girl was still wondering what Plan B meant, 2 assassins appeared on top of the bookshelf. She clearly didn't understand the company's rule. Once a mission fails, even the assassin is eliminated. He rushed toward the far end of the bookshelf. But as he drew his gun and turned back, he saw the girl already taken hostage by the 2 assassins. At that moment, his body suddenly froze. One assassin had managed to land a surprise punch on him. The assassin scoffed. "This old geezer is supposed to be the legendary Peter?" Then Ba Shaoran stepped out from behind and said coldly, "Even with your unmatched achievements and the fame you earned, you still couldn't defeat cancer." He asked them why they wanted him dead. Ba Shaoran answered directly, "The moment you show up, tens of thousands of assassins will hunt you down, because the bounty for killing you is 7.6 billion. And that amount happened to be everything he earned through a lifetime of facing death." Ba Shaoran laughed hysterically. "Senior, once you die, that money goes to someone else. So I mesti by my hand." A barrage of punches rained down on him. He was smashed violently across the room. Ba Shaoran saw that he seemed to have passed out. Suddenly, he raised his hand and gave him a gift, a high-powered flash grenade. The entire bookstore exploded with blinding light. Using his familiarity with the layout, he escaped. The assassins judged that Peter had lost too much blood and wouldn't get far. He collapsed beneath a slide in the park, his abdomen pierced by a bullet while protecting the girl. And against cancer, he had no strength to resist. After serving the company for 50 years, he had never sought luxury or wealth. He couldn't understand why his life had to end like this. He refused to die so unwillingly. And that 7.6 billion must stay safe, because it was the inheritance he intended to leave for the one he loved. But no matter how much resentment he felt, his dying body could no longer move. Sometime later, inside Ba Shaoran's base, 2 assassins cursed. That cooked 7.6 billion actually flew away. They planned to shove that damned old man into a trash can. A cold voice said, "That was my first time taking a picture." The assassins froze. Why was this guy dressed exactly like Peter? He didn't know either. When he woke up, his body had changed. One assassin warned him, "This isn't a place for a student like you." He told him not to waste time and to take him to Ba Shaoran. The 2 assassins exchanged a glance, then sneered, "If you walk in here on your own, you don't get to leave alive." They were shocked. This guy blocked a punch from a boxing champion with his bare hand. He tightened his grip, and the assassin's hand bones shattered instantly. The other assassin raised a blade and lunged at him. But the next second, multiple fist marks appeared across the attacker's body. He murmured, "A third-rate killer specializes in knives. A second-rate killer can handle all weapons. But a first-rate killer turns everything in this world into a weapon." The assassin felt insulted the moment he saw the man using an octopus tentacle. Furious, he launched his attack. Peter swung the tentacle and knocked the assassin's blade out of his hand. Then he suddenly wrapped the tentacle tightly around him. "You fools who don't know death when it's right in front of you. Let me send you to hell myself." Peter, once known as the #1 man in the entire industry, had awakened one day only to find himself back in his younger form. The old Peter the company was hunting had already died. What remained was the reborn killer. Meanwhile, a Maybach sped through the night. Boss Shaoran knew the company would soon issue an official kill order for Peter. He had to capture the dying Peter before that. At the same time, Peter left Ba Shaoran's base. Now, it was time to deal with that bald guy. He arrived at the restroom, drawing shocked stares from everyone around. He stared at his reflection in disbelief. The bullet wound that pierced through his abdomen was gone. Even the pain caused by cancer had vanished. He had completely returned to his younger self. How was this possible? He didn't know the reason, but one thing was certain. No one would recognize him now. Still, before moving on to his next objective, he needed a new set of clothes. That was when he noticed two muscular men smoking and chatting casually in a strictly no-smoking area. He politely apologized and asked if they could smoke outside, but the two men cursed him out and told him to get lost or he'd die miserably. They were right. He shouldn't waste time on people like them, so he would finish it quickly. He calmly walked toward the two men exhaling clouds of smoke. He wanted to show them what happens when you disrespect an old man. One of the men lifted his palm dismissively. In the next instant, two heavy punches landed squarely on his body. His throat collapsed inward immediately. The other man trembled and asked, "Who are you?" Peter didn't know him, but he recognized the knife in the man's hand, cannon bullet, and saw immediately that he was holding it backwards. Held like that, he'd cut his own fingers if he tried to swing it. The man roared, "Who said I was going to swing it?" But Peter knew, someone who plans to stab never fully extend his arm. Humiliated, the man prepared to strike. Peter easily knocked the blade away and turned the man's own knife toward him. But he didn't actually stab him. If Peter wanted him dead, he would have died 3 times already. Terrified, the man asked again, "What are you?" Peter crushed the man's collarbone and warned coldly, "If you knew what I really do, you'd have to die right here." Later, he discovered that the 76 billion in his bank account was gone. He had clearly said no one was allowed to touch that money. It was the inheritance he left for the one he loved. Fine. So they really wanted to tear things apart with him? Behind him, children were excitedly talking about receiving scholarships from the Glory Club. He grew up in the Glorious Orphanage, once run on a small scale by a religious group. 50 years later, it had transformed into a massive, influential corporation across multiple fields. Wearing the mask of the Glory Club, it committed countless illegal acts in secret. After all, it was the company he had devoted his entire life to, so he had to be the one to destroy it. In a slaughterhouse late at night, the butcher sneered, "Just you alone against me?" Ba Shaoran replied dismissively, "You're not Peter. Coming alone to deal with trash like you already feels like a loss." The butcher knew someone was coming tonight, so he prepared a full feast. In the next second, for Buckner, mercenaries stepped out from the shadows. The butcher knew Ba Shaoran wasn't one of the Glory Club's 12 apostles, so he couldn't understand his arrogance. Give our guest proper hospitality. No matter how the mercenaries attacked, Ba Shaoran's eyes never left the butcher. 2.5 seconds later, the butcher collapsed straight to the floor. He couldn't comprehend how a human could be as flexible as an octopus. Ba Shaoran said coldly, "Even with all this preparation, it's still not enough to fill the gap between my teeth." After all, he had won first place nationwide in jiu-jitsu thanks to his soft bone technique. The next moment, he rushed toward the butcher, his neck twisted a full 180 degrees. Moments later, Ba Shaoran returned to his base. What he saw was a complete mess. The security cameras were destroyed, and there were no traces of weapons, meaning it had to be Peter. But Ba Shaoran couldn't understand how that old man survived and even killed his people. He told the girl to report immediately if she discovered any trace of Peter. Just then, the base door opened. A staff member frowned. "What's going on?" "We're not open today." He politely asked the newcomer, "Do you have business here? Did we make an appointment?" Peter replied calmly, "We didn't, but we have some unfinished business." Ba Shaorin asked with confusion, "Did I chase you over a debt?" Peter answered coldly, "Yes, and the amount is quite large. About 76 billion. Ba Shaorin smiled faintly, then ordered in a low voice, "Lock the door." He didn't know how this kid had information about Peter, but no matter what, he wouldn't let him leave alive. The waiter already had a bullet chambered. Ba Shaorin glared coldly at the uninvited guest, unable to understand where this kid got the confidence to stay so calm. So Ba Shaorin gave him two options: reveal Peter's location and walk out alive, or resist and be riddled with bullets. He replied calmly, "I don't want either of those. How about I give you a third option? Although everyone who knew the truth is dead, I am Peter, and your two subordinates? I kill them." Ba Shaorin didn't believe a word of it. He wondered if his men were actually killed by this kid, not Peter, and why this kid would even attack him. He warned, "Kid, this is a real gun. Tell me what I want and leave." "What's your relationship with Peter?" The girl raised her dagger as well, ready to fight. He sighed, since Ba Shaorin refused to believe he was Peter, then killing him was his only option. Ba Shaorin ordered his armed subordinate, "Leave that brat one breath." In the next moment, a single chopstick pierced both the man's neck and the gun barrel. The subordinate collapsed instantly, completely motionless. The girl was shocked. He had taken out a vital point with just a chopstick, and the young man, who looked about the same age as her, casually picked up another pair of chopsticks and kept eating. She trembled. No one in the entire country possessed such strength. Ba Shaorin sneered, "Pretty cool. Even if it was just luck, your decisiveness is impressive. I like it. With strength like yours, why not work with us at the Glory Club, you little bastard?" As he approached, Ba Shaorin immediately drew his gun and fired. Peter lifted the table in an instant, blocking the bullets head-on. Ba Shaorin scoffed as expected, "You're still just a kid. This isn't a movie. A table like that can't stop bullets." A large pool of liquid had already spread beneath it. While trying to recruit him, Ba Shaorin slowly approached the table. Suddenly, he lunged forward, raising his gun to fire. But then he realized the liquid on the floor wasn't blood. It was chili oil. Ba Shaorin immediately began searching for his target. At that moment, Peter was already hanging on the wall. The chili oil in his mouth sprayed directly toward Ba Shaorin's eyes. Peter then struck, knocking Ba Shaorin's gun hand offline. In the next instant, he completely disassembled the gun. Ba Shaorin couldn't react at all. He couldn't see any of the movements clearly. He couldn't understand. Was this guy really as young as he looked? Ba Shaorin's neck twisted 180 degrees, and he fell to the ground without moving again. He couldn't comprehend it. How was this even possible? In more than 10 years of fighting hundreds of opponents, he had never seen someone this young with such strength. When Ba Shaorin was still a street thug, his instructor told him about death tactics. When facing a powerful enemy, use the moment they lower their guard. Since then, he trained obsessively in a technique only he could perform. Ba Shaorin practiced day after day, confident he would never lose to anyone again. His eyes flew wide open. He grabbed tightly onto the leg in front of him, and he unleashed his strongest death tactic. Ba Shaorin roared, "I've been doing this since before you were even born. I've eaten more salt than you've eaten rice. Today I'm killing you, you brat." A calm voice praised, "You held on pretty long." Ba Shaorin looked up and finally saw the target standing perfectly fine to the side. He realized he had strangled his own subordinate because he couldn't see clearly. Ba Shaorin had worked in this field for over a decade, and he could accurately tell he was going to die at this man's hands. Ba Shaorin finally realized that this man's strength even surpassed his own peak in youth. He panicked and tried to bargain. Ba Shaorin grabbed the nearby girl. "Take her. She doesn't have much combat experience, but she can still be useful," Peter said calmly, as expected of someone from the Glory Club. Quick reaction. Ba Shaorin let out a breath of relief, thinking he agreed, and said quickly, "Then it's a deal." Hearing that, Ba Shaorin rushed toward the door, planning to investigate this kid's background and kill him afterward. Then he heard the man behind him speak the true essence of the death tactic. The moment you think you've won, and turn your back to your enemy. You're already close to death. That sentence was exactly what his instructor told him years ago. A shocking possibility flashed through Ba Shaoran's mind. In this young man, he saw the shadow of his instructor, Peter. Peter asked him, "Remember what I told you earlier? Anyone who learns who I am doesn't live." The nation's #1 in jiu-jitsu, Ba Shaoran, was strangled to death. Against the god of killing, Peter, he had no chance of survival. Moments later, inside a certain Glory Club skyscraper, an assassin reported to a man, "Ba Shaoran has been confirmed dead. The surveillance at the scene was destroyed, and when we arrived, no traces were left behind." A dying old man, shot and supposedly finished, manages to erase all evidence in a day and kills 4 trained assassins. Interesting. The man ordered, from this moment on, issue an SSS-level bounty. Hunt Peter. On the bustling street, everyone lifted their heads toward the giant screen. The elderly Peter had become a donation target. He knew this was just a disguised wanted notice. But he wasn't going to wait for them. He would go after them himself. To destroy the Glory Company, he needed a partner, and he already had someone in mind. But that wolf-like person was a bit troublesome. Late at night, he arrived at a remote public restroom. More and more people were gathering there. He remembered there was a mechanism hidden in this place. Between illegal deals and heated nights, he found it, exactly where it should be. He successfully opened the secret passage. Inside, everything was still extravagant, a place built purely out of money. A sharp cane pressed against his neck. He asked, "These silk clothes and jade pieces, they're useless to you, aren't they? After all, you're blind." The woman chuckled. "Didn't expect this. After hiding for so long, I guess today I'm going back to my old profession." Though she couldn't see, her sense of smell was unnaturally sharp. The woman determined he was a young man. No smell of alcohol, not a beggar from the area, not a thief. Young, yet radiating killing intent. She questioned sharply, "Did Glory send you?" Her attacks were viciously fast. She teased, "You little mouse sure know how to dodge. That wallpaper is expensive." He slowly began to wonder, was she really blind? Although the woman was strong, he no longer wanted to waste time fighting her. The woman hadn't expected that someone this strong would still exist within the Glory Club's reach. Yet she hadn't sensed any killing intent from him. He thought to himself that he didn't want to dirty his hands killing a disabled person. But the grudge between her and Glory could only end with one side dead. The woman shouted angrily, "Mike in, bite him." But the strange sound that followed left her frozen. The German Shepherd, usually extremely wary of strangers, was actually acting affectionate toward this young man it had never seen before. After hearing Peter's explanation about returning to his youth, the woman touched him repeatedly in disbelief. His skin was smooth, and the old man's smell was gone. She was stunned. How could something like this even be real? The woman lay on the ground and asked if this was the position he had died in. She was impatient to try it herself. Then she asked what his cause of death had been: gunshot, blade wound, or poison. After he flicked her forehead twice, the woman finally behaved. She asked, "Senior, are you really planning to take on Glory alone? How will you do it?" He told her he would enter the Typhoon's eye. She frowned, not understanding what that meant. He knew Glory was desperate to capture him now, and the only way to access and shake their internal structure was to become an assassin of the Glory Club. The woman was confused. What kind of nonsense is that? Then it dawned on her. No one recognized the young Peter. If this younger Peter became a Glory Club assassin, then he, Peter, would be the one personally designing the operation to capture himself. She sighed. "Senior, you're truly a terrifying man." But she believed it was impossible because only those from the Glory Orphanage could become assassins of the Glory Club. Although the former Peter indeed came from the Glory Orphanage, the rejuvenated Peter was considered an outsider, and therefore he could not join the Glory Assassins. But he knew there was still another way. 2 days later, he arrived at a private high school owned by the Glory Club. The girls were excited, whispering that their school finally had a handsome new transfer student. His plan was simple: enter new Glory High School under a new name, Kim Seung-gu. The girls reminded him, "Kim Seung-gu, we need to head to the auditorium now." On the surface, the school looked completely normal, but its true purpose was to train assassins, secretly running an advanced assassin program. and entering that program was the only way he could become a Glory Club assassin. The auditorium was loud and chaotic. The woman on his earpiece knew the assassin class only accepted people from the Glory Orphanage. She asked how he planned to get in. He knew there was only one rare situation that would make them pay attention. He stepped onto the stage and began his introduction. I'm Kim Seung-gu, the transfer student. My hobby is fighting, and I'm good at fighting, and I'm an assassin. The entire hall went silent as everyone stared at him in shock. And that was exactly the effect he wanted to make the assassin class throw him an olive branch. He added that he planned to become the top student, a study-type assassin. Just then, a big guy pushed through the crowd. He knew someone had taken a bait. The big guy demanded, "Did you flirt with Yejin?" He had no idea what the man was talking about, but the situation was perfect for grabbing attention. Jang Iseo had loved only one woman for years. Today was his 22nd day dating his girlfriend, Oh Yejin, and he was known as the most devoted man in Glory High School. And today, he also became the man whose girlfriend was stolen by transfer student Kim Seung-gu. Jang Iseo wanted revenge. This man who once ruled Mapo District with his fists felt the presence of death for the first time in his life. In what he believed were his final moments, he apologized to Yejin, saying he failed to protect her. But the punch never landed. Instead, his forehead was flicked lightly. Jang Iseo collapsed onto the floor. A teacher rushed over, shouting, "How dare you fight in this sacred school?" He demanded, "Kid, what does your father do?" He answered that his father should be deceased. The teacher apologized but still dragged him away. Members of the assassin class watching from above found the transfer student interesting. They started debating whether they should eliminate this reckless newcomer. Among the crowd, Chai Un-sung was stunned. She couldn't understand why that man appeared here. Was he planning to destroy the school? During lunch, Un-sung heard a voice calling her. "Is anyone sitting next to you?" The students were too enthusiastic, so I came to hide. He asked, "Un-sung, why are you here?" Chai Un-sung looked guilty and said she didn't have an appetite, but he noticed she had quite a lot of food on her tray. Chai Un-sung recalled that moment, when he asked whether she wanted to stay alive. And if she wanted to live, she had to say that the man killed everyone there. She asked him, "I kept my promise to you, so why are you still looking for me? Are you here to silence me? Because of you, I became a company surveillance target. Do you know how exhausted I am now?" He explained he wasn't here to hunt her down and that this pressure was something she had to bear. After all, thanks to him, she was alive and eating lunch right now. Chai Un-sung said bluntly, "You don't know how terrifying this place is. You don't even know who I really am. What can an outsider like you possibly do here?" He smiled. "You just have to help me. You already boarded the same boat as clueless me, didn't you?" She muttered, "Why should I help you?" He replied coldly, "I'm counting on you from now on. Lee Yuna." Lee Yuna froze. How did he know her real name? But when she turned around, he was already gone. The sports festival began as scheduled. The man known as the New Glory Bolt felt like today was the day he would be forced to retire. All because of that new transfer student. After being completely crushed, the man hid in a corner and cried. Next was the eyesight test. Students were shocked. The transfer kid must have grown up in the desert or something, because he could see. Then came the advanced fruit peeling class. He picked up the fruit knife, a bit rusty, but he still carved out a rabbit. During break, 3 delinquent boys sneer at the teacher. "We just don't want to clean." What can you even do, you loser? Other than suddenly yelling or deducting points, what else can you do? As a teacher, you're crushing our spirit. Do you want your license revoked? The teacher shouted angrily, "Watch it, or I'll expel you for violating a teacher's authority." The delinquent sneered, "Then I'm defending student rights. And if I sue you in court, you'll lose your license the same day. So sit down quietly and stop acting tough." One of them planned to upload the teacher's furious reaction to social media. It would definitely go viral. Then they noticed the so-called transfer killer from a few days ago. The 3 delinquents threatened him harshly to get lost. He asked, "And if I don't?" One of them spit on him and mocked, "If you don't want to die, get lost quietly, or just die quietly." The boy's punch was too slow, and the other 2 mocked him for missing every hit. The boy throwing the punch also felt weird. Why couldn't he land a single blow? Another delinquent raised a brick to strike him from behind. In the next second, the brick turned into powder. Moments later, all 3 apologized to the teacher with their heads down. As they ran away backwards, they still shouted threats at him, yelling that justice always wins. He asked the teacher if he was okay, but the teacher scolded him. A student shouldn't fight in front of teacher. He bent down and picked up the phone the boys forgot. The teacher asked, "Your name is Soon-gu, right?" Before he finished, a sharp swoosh cut through the air. The teacher smiled. "Just as I thought. My eyes never fail me. You're not ordinary." "Proof?" "When you fought, not a single drop of coffee spilled from your cup." The teacher asked, "Where did you learn that?" "No, why did you learn it?" He answered, "I want revenge. Against Glory, the organization that ruined his life." Of course, he couldn't say that, so he invented an imaginary enemy. The teacher asked seriously, "Kim Soon-gu, do you want to join the service department?" He had waited a long time for this moment. He had sensed the teacher watching him from the shadows all this time. Teacher Lee Gwang-gwi, or more accurately, a killer instructor of Glory. The instructor said, "In New Glory High School, the assassin training class appears publicly as the service department. Only a chosen few can learn survival skills for killers. Kim Soon-gu, you are a rare transfer candidate. The path ahead will be dangerous. Welcome to the team. This is the service department, the place where Glory's assassins are made." But Peter still couldn't help doubting whether this place was really where assassins were trained. The instructor gathered everyone and announced that Peter was the new member of the service department. Leona was shocked. Why was this guy here? She prayed silently that he would pretend not to know her. Peter gave her a quick wink. She panicked instantly, thinking, "Is that a signal he's here to kill me?" Peter introduced himself, wondering how such an ordinary place could really be a base for assassin training. Then two students stepped forward to cause trouble. "We don't care if you're Kim Soon-gu or Kim Soon-rak. Only kids from the Glory Orphanage can enter here." How could the instructor accept someone who came into the back door? There were the Dugo brothers, class 58, Duga Hyung, skilled in high-speed movement, and Duga Dongsing, skilled in brute force combat. Peter felt speechless. He was actually one of the instructors from class one of the same orphanage. The instructor suggested having a simple welcome party. The students got excited and said they'd make fruit tea, using the new kids' meat as the ingredient. The Duga brothers pushed through the crowd to personally welcome Peter. Leona tried to stop them for their own safety, but Duga Dongsing scoffed and told her to step aside if she didn't want to get beaten too. They asked Peter if he had fought outside before. Was he some kind of Mapo boss? Peter couldn't even remember how many times he had fought. The Duga brothers warned him to be nervous because today would be his last time fighting. Duga Hyung said coldly, "This isn't a place for Mapo bosses or street punks. People like that will never understand why we risk our lives." Duga Dongsing added, "We fight so we can become like him, the strongest assassin in the world." And the him they spoke of was none other than Apostle Peter. So the Dugu brothers absolutely hated anyone who entered through connections. The three of them widened their distance. Peter didn't even bother listening to their nonsense and simply told them to come at him together. The Duga brothers felt he truly didn't know his place. They shouted, "You backdoor brat, you'll never understand how heavy our lives have been." But Peter's 65 years had been heavier than all of theirs combined. Moments later, the students praised the Duga brothers for doing a great job. They claimed the transfer student couldn't even fight back and ran away scared. As Peter was leaving, he heard someone call him. Leona asked, "Are you looking down on the service department?" She had been observing carefully the whole time, and she noticed that during the fight, Peter never put strength into even a single punch. Peter insisted he had tried his best, but Leona knew he was lying, because the states of the three fighters were completely different. Peter didn't even have a drop of sweat on him. Leona questioned him, "Why? You snuck into this school and hid your strength. What are you planning? What's your goal?" Peter didn't answer. He just looked at her. Then he said it was time to go eat in the cafeteria. Leona felt embarrassed. It was midnight. Meanwhile, at a city's express bus terminal, a bus driver was dancing with joy because someone paid $1,000,000 to charter a bus. But then something felt strange. He clearly accepted a group reservation today. So why was there only one passenger? He asked where the others were, and the passenger said he came alone, but he had a lot of luggage. The driver enthusiastically tried to help load it, but he noticed something odd. The passenger slapped his hand away and asked, "Want to bet? Guess what's inside the suitcase?" A moment later, the bus started moving. The driver didn't take the bet, but he was sure he didn't see wrong. the suitcase definitely moved. At that moment, the instructor received a request. The client was Chairman Choi Eun-chong of the Daxia Group, one of Glory's biggest sponsors. Any team that successfully completes this mission will receive the chairman's recommendation and immediately earn a service qualification license. In other words, they will officially become assassins. The mission is to rescue hostages. Recently, student kidnappings have been happening frequently, and among the kidnapped victims is Chairman Choi's only son. One student asked, "Why not just call the police to find the chairman's kid?" The instructor replied that Chairman Choi wanted revenge personally. So the sign-ups begin. If they don't go, they'll have to train another 2 years before becoming official assassins. Just then a mocking voice said, "Fine, rot here forever." The Dugu brothers immediately raised their hands to join. Suddenly, they noticed something funny and began laughing. Because the so-called backdoor transfer, Kim Seung-gu and the coward also signed up. Soon, only the volunteers remained in the classroom. But the instructor wasn't in a hurry at all. He told everyone to go have fun first. Peter wondered, are they really doing a hostage rescue in an amusement park? The Dugu brothers couldn't understand at all. Why do we have to wear bikinis in an amusement park? Lee Yoon sighed and told them to turn their heads back. The instructor revealed this place was exactly where Chairman Choi's son had been kidnapped. Their mission: rescue the hostage and defeat the kidnappers. The only intel they had was the last location seen, a zone called Blue World. Whether the boy is alive or dead, or where he is now, is completely unknown in such a huge place. But Lee Yuna found it strange. Kim Seung-gu looked like he already knew everything. A park staff member apologized, saying this attraction required online reservation. It was their first time at an amusement park, so of course they didn't know. Duga Dongsing asked Lee Yuna, "Are you here play? Making reservations?" Zero assassin awareness. In no time, the Dugu brothers were already playing around. They excitedly tried things they had never experienced before. Lee Yuna muttered that they were pretending way too hard. At the shooting game booth, the owner tried to sell them on how easy it was, insisting he was losing money. But in his mind, he knew they would never win. He had weighted the toys. With these two suckers, he could clock out early. Lee Yuna hesitated. This was her first time using a fake gun. Moments later, the shop owner was stunned. He really would be going home early. He observed several spots around the amusement park. Everyone looked genuinely excited. It was probably their first time here. After all, they had gone through a past similar to his. This was one of their rare chances, so they should enjoy it while they could. Who knew when they would be able to laugh this freely again? Lee Yuna, who had been hiding to sneak food, suddenly remembered the mission. Her phone picked up the signal of Choi Eun-jae's AirPods. Choi Eun-jae was the chairman's kidnapped son, meaning he might be nearby. But something was strange. Why was the signal coming from the women's restroom? She decided to check first before calling for backup. There was nothing unusual inside, but the signal was clearly coming from that woman. To avoid a misunderstanding, she politely asked, "Where did you get those AirPods?" The woman screamed in fear. Her boyfriend rushed in, and she immediately said the crazy woman tried to hit her. Lee Yuna panicked and tried to explain it was all a misunderstanding. The woman told her boyfriend not to fight, just force her to apologize. But the man still wanted to punch Yuna a few times. Not far away, the 3 students wondered where she had gone again, and the Dugu brothers worried she might be in trouble. Peter hadn't seen her either, but didn't think she was in any real danger. Lee Yuna quickly locked the man in a chokehold. She almost shoved a lollipop into his ear, but she suddenly realized she couldn't do that right now. She demanded the woman explain where she got the AirPods. Nearby, some park guests were whispering about a handsome guy. Lee Yuna ran over, explaining she tracked the place through Choi Eun-jae's AirPods. It seemed her target and Peter's target were the same. In a crowded amusement park, there were only a few ways someone could disappear without a trace. And this one attraction was fully booked all day, yet not a single person went inside. The unremarkable haunted house. They pushed open the haunted house's door. The Duga brothers said seriously, "Game over. Stay sharp. You two stick close to us." Lee Yuna told the 2 idiots to let go of her clothes first. Peter felt something was very wrong. The place was way too quiet. He told everyone to prepare. Their real mission was about to begin. Half of the mission was already complete, because from the very beginning, their mission was to get kidnapped. At that moment, the instructor of Glory School rushed to halt the mission. The operator asked what had happened. The instructor had just learned this wasn't a normal training mission. Park Sang-doo had appeared. He was once nominated as an apostle candidate, but even Glory couldn't control him and eventually cast him out. The operator was confident, saying the students weren't idiots. They had learned enough. What could go wrong? But the instructor knew that man was different. The operator stared in shock at the instructor's prosthetic leg. Meanwhile, inside the haunted house, Peter and Lee Yuna had already been tied up. Park Sang-doo said, "Do you know? The drug that knocked you out was chloroform, the classic one used in movies. But normally, a person passes out with their mouth open." In the school, the instructor exposed his prosthetic leg and said harshly, "We must stop him immediately. Park Sang-doo is extremely cruel. If he catches them, their legs will be cut off." At that moment, Lee Yuna's phone started ringing. Park Sang-doo saw the familiar name on the screen and picked up. The instructor said coldly, "If you touch even one hair on them, I'll kill you even if it costs my life." Park Sang-doo cheerfully replied, "Long time no see, Senior Gwang GWI. Don't sound so scary. You're not afraid I'll turn them into cripples like you, right?" He continued, "Why don't we make a bet? Let's see how many legs they've got left by the time you arrive." The operator couldn't understand why the instructor was shaking. Meanwhile, the Dugu brothers, who hadn't been tied yet, shouted for the criminal to come out. Park Sang-doo told the instructor to hurry, since he was about to begin. Lee Yuna whispered, "Kim Seung-gu." Peter didn't respond. She saw his mouth slightly open and wondered if he had actually fallen asleep, mentally complaining he was heartless. She had no choice but to try this. Peter looked at her and asked what she was doing. "I was never asleep." Lee Yuna quickly pulled her foot back and hurried to explain, "Don't get the wrong idea. I only did that to wake you up." She told Peter to follow her lead and use the escape techniques they learned in training. But Peter had already freed himself a long time ago. He planned to make a move the moment something went wrong. Lee Yuna told Peter to listen carefully. That man was once a killer from Glory. Peter calmly asked, "Lee Yuna, do you like betting?" The Dako brothers didn't expect the criminal to be just an ordinary office worker. They threatened, "Hey, old man, if you don't want to die, then tell us where Choi Yun-chang's son is." Park Sang-doo enjoyed the rude way young people talked. He asked, "Want to make a bet? If you win, I'll grant all your wishes, and I'll release Choi Yun-chang's son." The instructor on the phone panicked, because he knew no one could ever win a bet against that guy. Park Sang-doo added, "But if you lose, each of you leaves one leg behind." The Duga brothers asked the old man, "Do you really think this is okay? Because starting tomorrow, you'll be in a wheelchair." At that moment, Park Sang-doo tossed a knife to the Duga brothers. He said that a bet is only fun when it's fair. Duga Hyung sneered, "Old man, you'll regret this. I'm a #1 blade fighter at New Glory High." Dugu Hyung judged that with the same weapon, the old man's movements were slower than his. In a drawn-out fight, he would win. But Duga Hyung couldn't figure out what was wrong. The two knives were clearly the same, yet they felt completely different in his hand. Park Sang-doo asked, "What's wrong, kid? Any problem?" Duga Hyung finally noticed the bastard's trick. The knife in his hand didn't even have an edge. At that moment, Kim Seung-gu and Yuna also wanted to jump in and help. But Duga Hyung stopped the two of them. He roared, "Don't interfere. This fight is between us. If we brothers can't beat this old man, you definitely won't stand a chance." The Duga brothers knew the old man had no idea what their real objective was. The final trial before leaving the orphanage was called Hell Week. They had to spend a month in a place with no water and no food, with only a gun and a single bullet as supplies. And they had to survive in an area where thousands of wild beasts roamed. Everyone used their bullet for different purposes, some for hunting, some for betraying their friends, and some for ending their own lives. That was when the Dugu brothers grew their pride. Rather than die like that, they would fight to stay alive. The two of them saved their bullet until the very end, because back then they had a strong feeling that one day that bullet would decide the fate of both brothers. When Hell Week finally ended, they learned that among 181 orphans of the 58th class, only 2 had passed themselves. Then they heard a shocking piece of news. The apostle Killer Peter, who was their age back then, had set an unprecedented record. becoming the only one in 58 years of Hell Week who survived without using his bullet at all. To become someone like Peter, to become the strongest killer alive, the Duga brothers had devoted at least 10 years. In their eyes, the old man in front of them was nothing more than a stepping stone. Duga Dongsing quickly locked Park Sang-doo's arms. Duga Hyung had said it before. I'll make this old man regret giving me the knife. The old man chuckled darkly. Maybe what I should cut off isn't a leg, but that arm of yours? Duga Hyung let go of the knife, knowing it had no edge and couldn't cut. So all Duga Dongsing had to do was thrust with full strength. As Duga Dongsing drove the blade forward, Park Sang-doo asked coldly, "You want to be a killer like Peter? Stop dreaming." Duga Dongsing froze. His knife had shattered on impact, while Park Sang-doo was holding a military machete, a kukri, 3 times the weight and strength of a normal blade. Park Sang-doo had trained with this blade his entire life. It was faster than a knife, heavier than an axe, a true executioner's tool. Paired with his Kali martial arts, he was basically a walking meat grinder. The Dugu brothers never expected him to wield such a heavy blade so effortlessly. They realized this uncle wasn't an office worker at all. He was a monster in human skin. Before losing consciousness, the Dugu brothers told Lee Yuna and Kim Seung-gu to run. Park Sang-doo told Lee Yuna not to panic, saying he would never seriously hurt students. But since they had made a bet, he had to finish it. Each of them would lose one leg. The instructor on the phone roared, "No, take my other leg instead. Just don't touch them." Then a voice cut in. "Want to make a bet? The stakes double. Your 2 legs and an arm. If you're willing, we can throw your life into the pot too." Park Sang-doo smiled. A fun bunch, as expected from Glory. Sure. He tossed a knife toward Kim Seung-gu and smiled. Bets are only fun when they're fair. Need a weapon? Kim Seung-gu stopped Lee Yuna from interfering. He picked up a metal tray from the floor. "I'll use this. It's enough." Park Sang-doo burst out laughing. "You're amusing, kid, but Uncle won't hold back just because you're young." His attack came in brutally fast. He teased, "You think a nickel-silver tray can block this? Pray you survive one strike." On the other end, the instructor suddenly heard nothing but static. He could not let that day repeat. He could not let everyone die under Park Sang-doo again. That day, Park Sang-doo calmly told the dealer not to panic and asked, "Want to bet whether I leave this place alive? You're smart. You know which side to bet on. If I were you, I'd bet everything on me." Glory's assassin, Lee Gwang-gwi, said, "Park Sang-doo, you've caused too many disasters. To calm the public, we must sacrifice you. You're fired." From Glory's perspective, they had a team of veteran B-class assassins. No matter how strong Park Sang-doo was, fighting 5B class at once would push him to the limit. But to Lee Gwang-gwi, the way that man swung his blade was beyond what humans should be able to do. And that day became the end of Lee Gwang-gwi's assassin career. It didn't matter whether a chainsaw or a blade was stronger. What mattered was that the person holding it was terrifying. Park Sang-doo smiled. "Kid, your luck's impressive. But now what? Your only shield has been split in half." Lee Yuna sensed danger and prepared to help. The kukri wasn't supposed to be razor sharp, but it was sharper than Seung-gu expected. Even he was startled. He crushed the tray with force. Lee Yuna was stunned. The tray wasn't shield. It was a blade. Thanks to Park Sang-doo, Seung-gu had obtained a powerful weapon. Park Sang-doo smirked. "Looks like you're not just a regular student." He was secretly shocked. Coincidence? His last strike had been perfectly accurate. But at that exact moment, the kid stepped back. Ridiculous. He didn't know where this brat learned such tricks, but they wouldn't work on him. Whether it was luck or skill, he would find out. He opened with a feint using his jacket, then followed with a devastating strike. He was certain it would land, but the moment he lost his target, confusion flickered in his eyes. Park Sang-doo clearly felt his blade hit something. Was it that flimsy pad? A cold gleam flashed across his neck. He staggered back in fear. He knew he had almost died just now. The guy had appeared behind Peter in an instant and slashed at his neck without hesitation. If Peter hadn't blocked with his hand, his carotid artery would have been cut clean open. Such precise technique made Park Sang-doo question if that kid was really just a student. He suddenly realized the tray knife couldn't cut through thick clothing and couldn't block his kukri either. So the kid had aimed for his exposed neck. and he moved at a speed Park Sang-doo couldn't possibly track. Student or not, was that guy even human? Lee Yuna understood that because the kukri was extremely heavy, everything around would be shattered whenever Park Sang-doo swung it. Getting hit meant certain death, but the old man was slower than Peter. She assumed it was because of the weight of the blade. If this turned into an endurance fight, she was sure Peter would win. Suddenly, a thin cut appeared on Peter's face. Lee Yuna didn't expect Peter to actually get hit. Park Sang-doo said coldly, "You slaughter a cow with a butcher's blade, but for a rat, you use a rat killer." Peter knew Park Sang-doo's kukri weighed 3 times as much as a normal blade. Since the guy had thrown away that weight, speed was no longer Peter's alone. Park Sang-doo's assault grew even fiercer. Lee Yuna was shocked. The old man was nothing like he had been moments ago, but something felt odd to her. That kind of all blade was clearly meant for stabbing. So why was Park Sang-doo only swinging it? Park Sang-doo quickly adjusted his angle, ready to kill the brat in front of him, but the killing strike froze mid-air. He was stunned, his hand wouldn't move. Peter asked calmly, "What's wrong? Can't move your hand anymore." Park Sang-doo finally realized that the kid was never aiming for his neck. From the very beginning, his real target had been Park's hand. Peter said calmly, "The flexor, the extensor, the adductor, the median nerve, the radial nerve, the ulnar nerve, every muscle, nerve, and ligament your hand needs to hold something. I've already severed them. From the start, I never intended to kill you." Park Sang-doo couldn't understand. The person standing before him was neither a student nor some brat, and he couldn't tell how many people this monster had already consumed. Peter lifted the tray and said, "You said a nickel-silver tray could never beat a steel blade. So now, for the finale, let me show you what an egg smashing a rock really means." Most memories Park had of his past were scenes of being bullied, with those punks mocking him and even peeing on him. He fantasized every day about killing those bastards, but he never had the strength or courage to resist. When Park wanted to end his own life, a voice asked him, "Want to make a bet?" That single sentence made his heart pound like crazy. His powerless legs suddenly supported his trembling body at the cliff's edge. Park never understood why. But one thing was clear, betting his life made him stronger. Dopamine, serotonin, and adrenaline surged through him. Every life or death gamble brought him pleasure and power. He became addicted to it. And every gamble after that, Park won. He was the strongest. But now Park Sang-doo was being beaten senseless by a kid who still looked barely grown. Park roared, "Kneel, or I'll blow all of this up. Choi Eun-chang's son is inside these suitcases. If the grenade exploded, everyone here would die." The ceiling was connected to a gas pipeline. Park shouted, "If you don't want mutual destruction, kneel." Peter scoffed, "Do it first, then talk big." Peter warned him, "I already pulled the grenade pin. If you don't want to die, bite down on it with your jaw. That's how you make a real threat." Peter's fists kept slamming into Park Sang-doo. "Not bad. You're biting it better than I thought." Peter reinserted the pin and pulled Park up. "We're not done yet." Park shouted, "I didn't want it to come to this." Lee Yuna gasped. What else was he planning? But Park Sang-doo only dropped to his knees and begged, "Just call a draw." At that moment, the instructor arrived, and he witnessed something unbelievable. The once untouchable Park Sang-doo was now kneeling and begging for mercy. The victims, including Chairman Choi Eun-chang's son, were all rescued, and Park Sang-doo was taken to the Glory headquarters. Lee Gwang GWI still couldn't believe it. The nightmare that ruined his assassin career was dead, and it was actually taken down by those kids who were still students. Although he noticed many suspicious details, since the people involved denied everything, he had nothing more to say. After this mission, the 4 of them were officially promoted to assassins. But the Dugu brothers complained, "We captured a presumed S-class assassin, yet they only issued us D-class licenses." As the elevator doors slowly opened, 2 tall, muscular, long-haired men appeared before them. The Dugu brothers thought they had gone to the wrong place and hurried to apologize and close the door. At that moment, a woman walked out and welcomed them. "We've been waiting for you." The Dugu brothers quickly opened the door again, saying, "We're the ones you're waiting for." The woman explained, "Because you rescued young Master Eun-jae of the Daxia group. The chairman specifically ordered us to treat you well." After dinner, She took them to get custom high-end suits, then led them to the main stage prepared for today. She continued, "Our daxia group is the world's most advanced military enterprise and provides combat weapons for Glory's assassins. To celebrate your promotion as official assassins, the chairman said you may take as many weapons as you like." The Duga brothers proudly replied, "When have we ever needed guns in a fight? These are enough for us." The woman broke into a sweat. "Fine, I'll mail them to you then." At that moment, Li Yuna noticed an expensive Damascus blade, and even one made of S30V steel. She wanted one too, but she suddenly remembered she had done nothing that day, so she had no right to take something like that. The woman asked, "Mr. Kim Soon-gu, have you made your choice?" Peter picked only a fountain pen, thinking that he had already used almost every weapon here. Suddenly, the woman's phone rang. She seemed to receive an order. Then she turned to him. "Mr. Kim Soon-gu, please follow me to the chairman's office." Soon, she completed her task and brought Peter before the chairman. Chairman Choi Un-chang of the daxia group smiled. "Welcome, Kim Soon-gu. I wanted to meet you." Peter asked in confusion, "Why did you call me here?" Choi replied calmly, "Don't worry, I mean no harm. Actually, you might worry a little." Choi then asked, "Kim Soon-gu, why do you look exactly like Peter?" In 1978, Choi Un-chang, son of the daxia group chairman, was kidnapped by operatives from Country H, demanding that daxia hand over its missile project. The chairman requested aid from Country F, asking them to send their most elite forces, including Delta Force, to City B. But Country H was not to be underestimated. Delta Force was completely wiped out inside H territory. With no choice left, the chairman went to the sacred Glory Chapel. He begged the father to rescue his son, saying, "The daxia group will meet any demand you ask. Please send the strongest among your 12 apostles to save my child." The father calmly replied, "Everything proceeds according to the will of the Lord. So pray." Because the Lord's missile had already arrived in City B. The chairman asked, "Can he really do it? 3 special forces units have already been wiped out. Even as an apostle, what can one person do?" The father interrupted, "He can. Even alone, he can. Because my son is the strongest." The H soldiers were shocked. How did that man get in? The young Peter spoke in their language, coldly, perfect timing. The man who had just spoken was shot instantly. Peter fired at a speed they could not comprehend, each gunshot marking another death. And his words, perfect timing, referred exactly to the enemy head count and the number of bullets he carried. Then a man emerged from the front car, yelling in H language, "Drop your weapon if you don't want me to blow the young master's head apart. Put the gun down now." That H national had heard the rumor about a monster who could enter any battlefield alone and always return alive. That monster was the Apostle Peter. Peter suddenly shouted, "Un-chang, when I reach 3, lower your head." The H officer barked, "Speak H language, idiot." Peter was already at 2. When 3 came out, a coin flashed in his hand and shot forward like a bullet, piercing the man's forehead. Peter said calmly in H language, "Rest in peace, Lieutenant Colonel Eugene Andreev, Overseas Intelligence Bureau." Young Un-chang would never forget the man who saved him, and he would remember that grace for life. But Peter corrected him. "I didn't come to save you. I came to save Daxia's future. Stand up. The road home is long." Thanks to Peter, Un-chang survived. 40 years later, he still remembered that face. He asked Peter if he was the apostle's grandson. Peter was speechless. He hadn't felt this nervous in years. That fragile boy had grown into someone powerful. After hearing Peter picked only a steel pen from the armory, Choi said, "Whatever the reason, I can't let the apostle's grandson leave like this. Please accept this small gift. This is St. Petrus V4, the technological jewel your grandfather recovered. It carries our strongest engine, reaches an unofficial world best 21 kilometers per hour, and can jam all signals, staying invisible to GPS and surveillance." Peter said it wasn't necessary. The Duga brothers complained, "Bro, that's childish." Then asked the secretary, "Ma'am, can we return it?" Of course no. Peter wondered why Yuna was still frozen and urged her to get in the car. The Duga brothers started muttering again. Then instructor Lee Guang-GWI called. "The senior assassins want to meet you. You're the first specially appointed rookies in 4 years. Show them some young blood." Peter slowed the car so the Duga brothers could keep up. The instructor announced, "The monster rookie is arriving." This was the Gangseo branch of the Glory Club, the Hyojong Glory Chapel. The Duga brothers sighed. Fame was tiring. Peter saw everyone looking excited. "All right, let's head in. This is where revelations are given, where assassins of glory receive missions matching their rank, their revelation." The assassins had to pray before the priest. The priest blessed the brothers, wishing them victory in every battle. Yuna finally understood that was how real assassins received missions. Peter also realized it was the process for low-tier killers. The Dugu brothers eagerly checked the revelation given by the priest, but it only had one word: battle. The priest smiled. "We don't assign missions to rookies, but we do reward them with delicious holy blood." The next second, the cup of holy blood splashed hard onto Duga Hyung's head. The priest asked, "How does it taste?" "We've been waiting for trashy D-class like you." Duga Hyung grinned. "Some things you gotta taste yourself to know whether it hurts or not." "Are you like that too, old man?" The battle officially began. The Duga brothers taunted, "A rank-free fight, right? We won't hold back just because you're older." One cultist sneered, "Clueless D-class garbage." "Pathetic." Duga Hyung replied calmly, "Of course we don't know. We weren't born to be D-class. Remember this, we're the Duga brothers, future S-class apostles." Duga Dongsing added, "A mere B-class acting this arrogant? Annoying. From now on, I'm done joking. Time to go serious." The other killers watched, realizing the rookies were pretty strong. Yuna couldn't help thinking. With confidence, the Duga brothers were much stronger than when they fought Park Sang-do. The cultist frowned. "What's going on?" Another looked around. "Where's the other kid?" Suddenly, a hand shot out from behind and grabbed the cultist's ankles. Duga Hyung smirked. "Looking for me?" With a signal from Duga Hyung, Duga Dongsing leapt upward with a heavy fist. The cultist scoffed. "Your dream is to become Peter? At your age, I thought the same. And since our future stars need real combat experience, I won't joke around either. Let's fight properly." Duga Dongsing's palm was pierced through, and Duga Hyung was knocked down right after. Yuna tried to rush in to stop it. But B-class rank 33 Killer of Glory, Jang Guanjang said, "So, how does it feel to see a real killer?" That guy spent his whole life just to barely reach B-class. 4 normal killers, that's already like plucking a star from the sky. D-class killers handle missions targeting civilians, 336 members. C-class deals with mobsters and combat-based criminals, 200 members. B-class handles conflicts between killers, 100 members. A-class handles national-level assassinations. Only 30 exist. Once you become a killer, you sacrifice your whole life, burning everything to climb toward glory's strongest. But even if you throw away your life and somehow reach A-class from S-class upward, effort alone will never be enough. At the very top stand the 12 disciples, the apostles. The cultist mocked, "Kids, want to know how to become an apostle? You just need to be reborn." His fist smashed into Duga Hyung's skull. He sneered, telling them to go home and drink milk from a mother who doesn't exist. Yuna couldn't understand. There was no need to beat them this badly. Jang Guanjang recognized Yuna as a former errand girl for the Eight Tails gang and scoffed, "Someone like you, with no skill, no qualifications, trying to be a killer? Even a stray dog walking by would laugh." At that moment, a hand clamped tightly around Zhang Guanzhang's wrist. Peter said calmly, "Senior, please don't cross the line." Zhang Guanzhang was shocked that he couldn't break free and yelled, "You brat, are you trying to fight me?" Jiawen had warned Peter not to be too flashy. A rookie beating an A-class like Park Sang-do was already unbelievable. With a veteran's sharp instincts, it was only a matter of time before Glory grew suspicious of Peter, which would ruin all his plans. To strike Glory when they least expected it, he had to stay hidden as a D-class. Zhang Guanzhang shouted, "An adult is talking." "Don't be so arrogant." Peter replied, "You can hit me if you want, as long as you let me take them to the hospital. One has a piercing wound, the other is unconscious. If they don't go now, it'll be dangerous." Peter bowed his head slightly. "Please, Senior." Zhang Guanzhang smirked with satisfaction. "Fine, we'll do it your way." But he added that they had to hand over their service licenses first. He sneered, "When you grow strong someday, make sure you come reclaim them." The four of them left the chapel in a sorry state. Brother Dako complained. What the heck was that supposed to be? If the licenses were gone, Instructor Guangqi would definitely rip all their hair out. Brother Dako apologized to Lee Yuna and Kim Seung-gu, saying he failed to protect them. He said that as their captain, he should have only shown them his coolest side. Peter put a helmet on him. Come on, Captain. Let's go eat. The motorcycle sped down the highway. Lee Yuna asked Kim Seung-gu, what do we do to get stronger? Peter asked back, confused, why are you asking something so pointless? Lee Yuna was stunned. You're not bothered at all? Our licenses were stolen just like that. Peter said calmly, the strong prey on the weak. When you're weak, you endure. Late at night, a few disciples mocked, just thinking about competing with those trash makes me angry. Then they noticed the rookies from earlier were back. Zhang Guanzhang sneered. You here for another beating? Or to repent for sticking up for others? Peter asked coldly, must you go that far? Zhang Guanzhang scoffed. Didn't get enough of a beating earlier? Peter stood up and said, I'm here to show you something you've never seen and will never see again. The battle of an apostle. Zhang Guanzhang let out a dry laugh. Unbelievable. 14 years in this job, and this is the first time I've seen someone dare call himself an apostle. Kid, you really don't understand how the world works. He was about to order a cultist to step forward when something fell off. The other cultist wasn't moving at all. Danger pressed right in front of him. Yet the boy was supposed to be just a D-class killer whose name he couldn't even remember. No weapon, no cover, only a string of holy beads full of openings. Yet the cultist felt something he couldn't explain. Those eyes were not the eyes of a D-class brat. Zhang Guanzhang frowned. Old Zhang, why are you frozen? Don't tell me the kid scared you, stupid. The cultist snapped back, insisting he was imagining things. He said sternly, there's a rule in our line. If a junior defies a senior, the senior has the right to execute him on the spot. He pictured throwing the book in his hand. The boy would raise his arm to block it, exposing his ribs. Then he'd instinctively bend over to protect the wound. But the cultist's true target wasn't the ribs. It was the boy's eyes. A second later, the cultist's limbs were severed. Only then did he understand. Those beads were not ordinary holy beads. His head flew next. He snapped back to reality, clutching his throat in terror. Zhang Guanzhang asked, confused, what are you doing standing there? Trembling violently, the cultist knew he could never win. Every simulated attack ended with him being instantly killed. He had died thousands of times in his mind. After decades of battles, he understood one truth. The man before him was someone utterly unbeatable. He couldn't understand why. It wasn't pressure, it was something beyond comprehension. Thinking about how he had actually hurt that man earlier, he suddenly wished he were dead. Peter looked at him calmly. When Peter lifted a hand slightly, the cultist panicked and began apologizing non-stop, begging Peter for forgiveness. Peter simply tapped his cheek lightly and said quietly, sensing death, that's supposed to be the basic instinct of a killer. In that sense, you do have excellent qualities as a senior. Inside the chapel, Zhang Guanzhang was still scolding the cultist, demanding why he had let that brat go. The cultist snapped, do you want to live? If you don't want to die, shut up. At that moment, Jiawen arrived at the chapel, irritated. Senior, why are you here? Why did you start a fight this early? What if the whole plan gets exposed? Peter told her that wouldn't happen. Losing to a D-class assassin as a B-class. Embarrassment was the least of the problem. It would ruin that cultist's reputation completely. Losing before even making a move, Peter asked Jiawen, if it were you, would you tell anyone? Jiawen thought bitterly. She rushed here because she was worried, yet all he gave her were sarcastic comments. Peter rode off on his motorcycle. The next day, the Dako brothers imagined how the instructor would react once he learned their service certificate was gone. Teacher Li Guanggwi erupted. Your service certificate is your life. How could you idiots lose something like that? Cold sweat ran down their backs. We're done for. They mentally rehearsed countless ridiculous excuses. Then a voice called out, brat. The cultist from yesterday had shown up. The Dako brothers panicked. Why are you here again? Did you come to duel us? The cultist stared at them. Are you two idiots auditioning for a rap contest? Why are you talking with rhythm? He added, I'm here to return the service certificate I took yesterday. The Dako brothers exclaimed, we thought you were a jerk, big bro. Didn't expect you to be a good guy." The cultist sighed helplessly. "I was forced into this." The one called Kim Soon-gu sent chills down his spine. The Dako brothers respectfully bid the cultist farewell. Now it was time to return this to Lee Yuna. But Peter still hadn't seen her anywhere. Meanwhile, inside the training arena, Lee Yuna was practicing assassination techniques desperately. She had been powerless when facing Park Sang-doo. Even back in the chapel, she could only watch from the side. Yuna was furious at her own weakness. She was still far too weak. She knew that if this continued, her younger brother Eugene would be in danger. Peter arrived at the arena and asked calmly, "What's there to feel useless about?" He handed her service certificate back to her, but she felt she didn't deserve to take it. Peter asked, "Is it because of your brother? You think you're weak, so you're forcing yourself to become a killer you're not suited for, just for him." Yuna snapped, "You don't know anything. Why do you get to say that?" Peter admitted he didn't know her well, but he wasn't completely ignorant. For example, her younger brother wasn't actually her biological brother. Peter asked, "Can you tell me what really happened between you and your brother?" Back at the orphanage, Eugene always followed Lee Yuna around, asking her, "Are we family?" But at that time, Yuna didn't accept the word family at all. From the moment she was found inside a subway locker, she had never had a family. She should have died there, yet she was unluckily saved and brought to the orphanage. Food and clothes were never enough, but she didn't feel uncomfortable. She never intended to make friends or form a family, because she didn't want to be abandoned again. Yuna wanted to remain alone forever, even wishing to leave this world sooner. Until one day, she got shot during a mission. The orphanage couldn't stop the bleeding, nor did they have any blood bags left. Although she could have been taken to Glory Hospital, the people at the orphanage planned to throw away the worthless Yuna. And she had expected that. That's why she believed having nothing from the start would be easier. This place was cold to begin with. Death felt like a release to her. But the teacher said a miracle happened. And after that miracle, Eugene disappeared. Yuna later learned from the other orphans that the little guy had been stubbornly determined. The teacher tried to stop him, but couldn't. He said he wanted to save his sister, even if he died doing it. After who knows how many blood draws, Eugene asked the teacher, "Does sis still hurt?" Yuna Lee had always believed she had no family. So she never realized someone had always been standing in the same place, quietly watching over her. She couldn't understand why Eugene would go that far. Now Eugene needed expensive blood coagulating medication every day, and the orphanage had already decided to stop treatment and throw him out. Yuna suddenly lunged toward the doctor, begging the staff not to abandon Eugene. She said, "I'm not in pain anymore. I can earn money now. I'll pay for all his medical bills, no matter how much it costs, because I'm his sister." It was the first time she felt she had a reason to stay alive. Even if Eugene didn't really look like her, so what? She was determined to save her little brother. Peter realized he had meddled too much and turned to leave, letting Yuna continue training. Suddenly, Yuna murmured, "You're the strongest person I've ever met. Please, help me become stronger." Coincidentally, Peter had the exact same thought. Although Yuna had little strength, a weak natural constitution, a timid heart, and a fiery temper, terrible traits for an assassin, Peter knew she possessed the most important talent, the eyes of a true killer. From the very beginning at the Basheo restaurant, to his fight with the Dugo brothers, she had also watched the entire fight between Peter and Park Sang-doo, her eyes never once leaving the battlefield, as if she were trying to absorb every technique and detail. It's said that baseball players who frequently hit home runs can even see the trajectory of a flying ball. Yet Peter was certain Yuna's dynamic vision was far sharper. In any case, there was one weapon that could turn all of her weaknesses into strengths. Peter told her, "If you can control this, you won't even need a real instructor. This thing alone will turn you into a real assassin." Yuna looked down at the object in her hands, confused. Sometime later, the Dugu brothers were excitedly sniffing the smell of money, because as official killers they received 1 million won per week. They wondered, if they became apostles, would it be 10 times that? But Peter knew such things meant nothing to apostles. If an apostle wanted something, they could simply have it. Peter suddenly asked, "By the way, I haven't seen Yuna in a while." The Dugo brothers confidently said she must have gone to do another part-time job. She was probably cleaning a crime scene, removing every trace left behind by killers. Blood, guts, filth, none of it bothered her. The Dugo brothers didn't understand. Even if she did nothing, a D-class killer earned $1,000,000 a week. They had no idea why she worked so desperately hard. Peter realized no one could spend that much money alone. Yuna's brother must have a hidden issue. Then the Dugo brothers received a message from Yuna, asking them to bring her a scarf. They were puzzled. Why a scarf in warm spring weather? Inside a freezing ice processing factory at -20 degrees. The Dugo brothers snapped. Why the hell are we in a place like this? Yuna replied calmly, to train, of course. They wondered, what is this? Barehanded ice-breaking practice. Yuna reluctantly showed them what she was holding. It was the rope dart Peter had given her earlier. A rope dart is a traditional martial weapon, attacking by swinging a long cord wrapped around the body. Its power scales directly with speed, and because it spins as it's thrown, its destructive force is immense. Its greatest advantage is simple. Your enemy never knows where or when it will strike. The Dugo brothers burst out laughing. This is your secret weapon? A gun's way better. Still, they had to admit, it really was impressive, especially how it pierced such thick ice in a single blow. But they still didn't get it. A gun is easier and kills instantly. Why train with this? Peter explained to Yuna, if you want to kill 5 people with a gun, you need 5 bullets. But with a rope dart, if you train enough to control its trajectory, you can wipe out all 5 in a single strike. The Dugo brothers were shocked. She shattered the whole block of ice in one hit. They whispered among themselves, planning to check online how much rope darts cost. At sunset, the owner of the ice factory, D-Class rank 113 killer Park Bing-soo, asked Yuna, "Finished your training?" He had seen countless people practice ice-breaking here, but never anyone who shattered every block like she did. Yuna suddenly remembered she hadn't paid the training fee, but Park Bing-soo waved his hand. "Your friend came 3 hours ago, paid everything for you, and even left 1,000,000. And he also left this. It was a scar prevention ointment, meant to be applied before any mark forms." Moments later, Yuna left the ice factory. She wanted to thank Kim Seung-gu right away, but had no idea what to say. She gritted her teeth and called him. But the words of gratitude reached her lips and somehow turned into asking what the school cafeteria was serving today. She immediately wanted to hang up in embarrassment. Before the call ended, Peter congratulated Yuna on obtaining her true weapon. Nearby, the Dugo brothers kept practicing the rope dart, frustrated they couldn't reproduce Yuna's curved trajectory. Peter understood well. Yuna had always been searching for a weapon and strength that belonged only to her, and that strength had been in her hands for a long time already. Meanwhile, in a sealed chamber, a man was yelling like a madman. "Come at me. I am Park Sang-do. Even if a whole truckload of B-class and C-class killers showed up, they're nothing but insects. You think you can take me down?" Then, a cold voice echoed through the room. "That's going to be difficult. B-class won't work. C-class won't work either. To defeat an A-class like Park Sang-do, does it really take an apostle?" A doctor in a white lab coat walked toward the half-naked Park Sang-do. Park Sang-do froze. The cookery knife slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor. The doctor picked up the cookery and said calmly, "I heard you love to gamble. So how about a bet with me? A killer who once came close to the S-class apostles versus a real apostle. Who do you think wins?" In Park Sang-do's terrified eyes, the reflection of the apostle appeared, Daniel. Meanwhile, in the hospital, a little girl was crying and refusing her injection. The Dugo brothers sighed. "She's way too fragile. Still far from being an adult." 1 second later, they were trembling themselves. "In nurse, can we get full anesthesia?" Yuna cursed beside them, idiots. This was the mandatory medical exam for all new killers, performed in a new Glory hospital operated by Glory. But what worried me the most was the blood test. The reason was simple. It was the leash they put on us. DNA and fingerprints remain the same even if someone becomes younger. So if anyone betrays the organization and runs, they can hunt them down to the very end. Glory will eventually notice that the stored DNA of old Peter matches perfectly with the DNA of the young Peter they drew today, which means my true identity will be exposed. At night, Peter told Jawan that he didn't want to sit and wait for death, because he had already figured out a way to completely escape Glory's pursuit, and that was blowing up the hospital. Ji-won snapped, "Please, you crazy old man, say something that actually makes sense. Just because you regained your youth once doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. Do you even know what that place is?" Of course Peter knew. It was the new Glory General Hospital in City, a place Glory valued immensely. On the surface, it looked like an ordinary hospital, but in reality, it handled assassinations disguised as medical accidents, treated injured killers, and hid corpses. It was a hospital built for assassins. He knew his DNA was probably stored in the hospital's data center, so he had no choice but to blow up the center. Ji-won, both anxious and furious, said, "Fine, do whatever you want. But do you know who's guarding the new Glory Hospital right now? It's Apostle Daniel. That guy is not even human. Codename, Daniel. His actual profession was a doctor. He was once praised as a heaven-sent talent, a genius doctor, but in his second year, he caused a medical accident and then vanished. And 4 years ago, in City C of Country G, a police officer finished his shift and was returning to the station. As he approached the entrance, he noticed something strange. Someone seemed to be drying clothes right at the station's front door. But when he got a little closer, his eyes widened in horror. Shocked, he accidentally got into a car crash. It turned out that what was hanging at the police station entrance wasn't clothing at all. It was a row of corpses. The incident immediately drew in a special operations unit to investigate. But once they saw the scene inside the station, they were all stunned. Various firearms lay scattered on the floor, their barrels bent out of shape. The place didn't look like the aftermath of a fight between humans at all. The squad leader quickly realized something was terribly wrong. Suddenly, a massive hand shot out from the darkness. A soldier was instantly dragged into a gloomy room. A series of bone-crushing cracks echoed, followed by silence. Under the moonlight, corpses were pinned all over the ceiling as a towering, muscular figure slowly stepped forward. In a chilling voice, he muttered, "I want someone stronger." The Special Operations Unit immediately raised their submachine guns and opened fire. And on that day, the 6 crime syndicates that had ruled over City C for 30 years, along with the world-class military police, were completely wiped out. Peter couldn't help doubting it. Could a human really bend gun barrels with bare strength? Ji-won confidently said, "That report is top-level classified information from City C's authorities. It's absolutely real." She believed that with that monster guarding Glory Hospital, charging in head-on was foolish. It was better to find a loophole. Thanks to Ji-won, Peter finally thought of a way to get inside. Then he asked her, "Can you help me with something?" On a bustling street, people were staring in confusion at Peter on the giant screen. What Peter asked Ji-won to do wasn't anything big, just a simple greeting. On the giant screen at Glory headquarters, it was openly stated that on August 24th, Peter would go meet Dr. Daniel. Not far away, a top-tier hacker followed Ji-won's instructions, broke into Glory's server, and released the announcement. Still, he worried that if Glory noticed, his boss would be in danger. Ji-won knew that was possible, but she had never seen that reckless man fail a planned mission in the past 50 years of his active career. Soon, a large group of D-class assassins assigned to the Capture Peter operation gathered outside the hospital. Their combat strength was low. They were merely gatekeepers. The real fighting force was Daniel's private soldiers, former elite assassins from Country G, with even the weakest among them being B-class. And now, besides D-class assassins, even the extremely rare A-class assassins and Apostle Daniel himself were present. None of them expected to witness a battle between apostles in their lifetime. However, most believed Daniel would win. Peter might be a legend, but they'd heard the old man was nearly 70 and in late-stage cancer. At that moment, the Dugu brothers declared firmly, "Peter will definitely win this time." The assassins were speechless. How can you two cheer for the target we're supposed to capture? Still, they understood. After all, every rookie's dream was to become like Peter. In fact, many assassins didn't want Peter to show up at all. His face had already been exposed, and if he came here, there was absolutely no way he would leave alive. At this moment, Peter, ranked number 366 among D-class assassins, was standing among them. Daniel's private soldiers announced. If you encounter Peter, you are strictly forbidden to fight him. Approach him with respect, then sedate him with the tranquilizer gun provided. After all, he's the kind of expert who can knock out an elephant in 3 seconds. Once the target is found, immediately hit the nearest emergency bell to report the location. An A-class assassin will head there for support. Peter memorized every instruction carefully. How amusing. Peter was going to capture Peter. The operation starts now. Your beloved Grandpa Peter has arrived. Meanwhile, major figures across country be heard that Peter had declared war on Glory. Everyone was discussing whether Glory could still survive, and rumors said people were already doubting the new CEO's competence. The Army Chief of Staff told Glory's new CEO, if you can't even catch a toothless old tiger, you'd better give up before we're forced to step in. Choi Yun-chong, chairman of the world's strongest military supply corporation, remained silent on the side. The new CEO of Glory said coldly, my apologies. I wasn't careful enough. Even starting now, I will live more obediently, because the moment we show a bit of kindness to you old men, you immediately get full of yourselves. The new CEO suddenly slammed the Army Chief of Staff's head into his hand and growled, since you become the Army Chief of Staff, you should know your place. Are you looking down on me, you damned old fossil? The new CEO eagerly anticipated the showdown between his own masterpiece and his father's masterpiece, Peter. Who would win? Meanwhile, Peter grabbed a doctor's head, twisted it to the right. Several crisp cracks sounded as the doctor collapsed heavily to the floor. Then the doctor stood back up, excitedly saying, that felt amazing. Young doctor, how did you learn that technique? Peter casually asked, do you know if there's a doctor here named Royale? The assassins sent to hunt me all disguise themselves. And Apostle Daniel's real name is Royale. I have to find him, but no one here seems to know that name. Did he change his name and face to hide? But one thing's certain, Daniel is somewhere in this hospital. Looks like this will turn into a race to see who finds the other first. Just then, a voice called out to Peter, Soon-gu, what are you doing? The assassins disguised as patients, the Duga brothers, urged him to hurry up and move. Peter asked, where's Lee Yuna? The Duga brothers proudly said, she's ranked no. Too low to come here. You, number 336, only made it because you're with us. While you were wandering around, we already searched the whole lobby. If you see anything suspicious, call us immediately. You're weak, so we'll protect you. Then they shouted in excitement. They thought they had found Peter. He looked exactly like the photo. Peter was speechless. How was that even similar to the photo? The Duga brothers bowed respectfully and whispered, Grandpa, let us escort you out. At that moment, the assassin disguised as a young nurse behind Peter asked if he needed a syringe. Peter smiled and said, it's fine. I'm sure it's already been drawn. He wondered if the hunt for Peter had begun already. Every elderly man whose age matched Peter's had their blood taken under the pretext of a free checkup. And the Dugo brothers, who wanted to secretly escort the old man out, also tried to keep him quiet. Suddenly, the older Dugo brother was bumped by someone. He shouted angrily, are you blind? Only then did he realize the person was Lee Yuna, who absolutely shouldn't be here. Lee Yuna stammered, saying she was only here because her younger brother was hospitalized. Then she walked away without looking back. Watching her leave, the older Dugo brother grinned proudly. What, scared off by the dignity of rank 333? Peter wondered why Lee Yuna had come here at all. Ji-won reminded him through the earpiece that this wasn't the time to worry about juniors. She asked, and your plan to find Daniel? Still nothing? Peter understood that both he and Daniel were searching for each other. And without exposing his current identity as Kim Soon-gu, how could he locate Daniel? Just then, Daniel's private soldiers warned, you declass from Glory, slack off again, and you're dead. Peter responded respectfully, saying he would leave quietly. He told Ji-won, I think I figured it out. Since the fisherman refuses to show himself, we'll just have to bite the bait from our side. It's time to use that. He told Ji-won to get ready. They were about to move. Ji-won laughed and said, our kids could use the warm-up anyway. A moment later, Peter prepared himself and stepped into the operating room. The B-class assassin, known as Black Bro, asked suspiciously, who are you? Peter stated that he was Kim Soon-gu, the D-class assassin assigned as today's lead surgeon. Black Bro told him to go look for Peter instead, and Peter replied, "But the one I'm looking for isn't Peter." He calmly asked, "Where's Apostle Daniel right now?" Black Bro frowned. Why would a mere D-class mention his name? Peter replied coldly, "I don't expect an answer from you anyway. But when an assassin asks about someone, there's only one reason. He intends to kill him." Black Bro grinned excitedly. "Perfect. I was getting bored." Moments later, another assassin rushed to find the professor, asking him to take a look at what he was holding. This was the orthopedic operating room on the 3rd floor of the East Wing. Daniel began to laugh. He started counting the seconds. This was the 1st second, the 3rd second, the 7th second, the 8th second, the 10th second. Daniel smiled and said, "Amazing. To think he dispatched a B-class assassin in just 10 seconds." Daniel slid his fingers across the screen to zoom in. He muttered a curse, "Damn it." Peter, that guy actually came. Daniel asked his subordinate, "Where did Peter go after this?" The subordinate, drenched in cold sweat, explained, "Aside from this video, all security footage inside the hospital is being deleted in real time. With our tech, we can't stop it." He begged the professor to spare their lives. Daniel said calmly, "Mr. Park Sang-do looks quite excited too." His own anticipation for Peter's arrival was already hard to contain. And Grayson, Carter, Sawyer, and Robert were all waiting with the same excitement. Daniel wondered whether Peter would like the VIP seat he deliberately prepared. He really wanted to hurry and peel off Senior Peter's skin. Ji-won guessed that Daniel must have fully taken the bait. Earlier, she had the hacker perfectly reconstruct old Peter's wrinkles and expressions. Daniel must have been terrified. After arranging so many men, he was still caught completely off guard. This time, it was Peter who threw out the bait, and now the hunter would begin to lie in ambush. Meanwhile, Lee Yuna was on the rooftop, chewing on a piece of bread. She didn't understand why the powerful Apostle Daniel wanted to see her. She worried. Had the issue with the Bahal people been discovered? She realized that at this rate, her friends would be in danger too, and especially now, she absolutely could not run into Kim Seung-gu. Just then, a voice called out behind Lee Yuna. Peter asked in confusion, "Lee Yuna, why can't you meet with me?" He held her back gently, telling her not to say strange things, explaining that he was just Kim Seung-gu, a D-class assassin who came here to eat, and he accidentally ordered 2 whole chickens, so he couldn't finish them alone. Since there was still time before his appointment, he asked Lee Yuna to keep him company and help him pass the time. Lee Yuna thought, if Apostle Daniel's people see this, both of them would be in danger. She had to refuse no matter what. She said sternly, "I'm not eating with you. Leave now." Peter sighed helplessly and told her she should put down the fried chicken box before saying that. Lee Yuna whispered that she would leave after finishing one piece, and soon a small pile of bones appeared beside her. After finishing the chicken, Lee Yuna asked seriously, "What are you waiting for? Tell me the real reason you came to New Glory Hospital." She continued, "I understand if it's hard for you to trust me. The first time we met, I was with the Bahal people, and I can see that you, Kim Seung-gu, have a connection with Grandpa Peter. I can't help you find him, but there's one thing I can tell you for sure. I'm sorry, Kim Seung-gu, that Grandpa took a bullet to protect me, which means he may have already passed away." Peter cut off Lee Yuna's words and told her he was looking for someone, although he didn't want to drag her into this. As a D-class assassin, she was never meant to be summoned for the hunt. He asked, "This person called you here alone, right? Don't say you don't know. If that's the case, it means you must have met Apostle Daniel." Lee Yuna was about to explain that this person wasn't Daniel, when a cold voice suddenly came from behind. "Miss Lee Yuna, wandering around without an escort again. I told you that man has already arrived, so you must return to your ward immediately." Peter's target finally appeared. The general director of New Glory General Hospital, Apostle Daniel. Daniel asked Lee Yuna, "Who is this man?" Lee Yuna panicked and sighed, thinking these two meeting now would definitely cause trouble. But Peter simply bowed respectfully and greeted the professor. He introduced himself as Kim Seung-gu, a D-class assassin assigned to this operation, saying that seeing an apostle in his lifetime was truly an honor, and that he, Kim Seung-gu, would definitely claim Peter's head so Daniel could rest assured. Throughout the entire conversation, he wore a flattering smile. Daniel said nothing, staring at him coldly. then told Miss Lee Yuna to go to his room, promising to send someone to escort her back after the consultation. After saying that, Daniel turned and left. Peter thought to himself that Apostle Daniel truly wasn't an ordinary person. His hand had already begun to go numb from their handshake earlier. Daniel ordered his subordinate to bring him the resume from the time they captured Park Sang-do. The subordinate respectfully handed it over, but the file slipped from Daniel's hand the moment it touched his palm. The subordinate panicked and apologized to the professor. Daniel knew clearly that it was his own hand slipping. Ever since shaking hands with that D-class assassin earlier, his hand had started to go numb as well. Daniel wondered whether he should keep that man named Kim Soon-gu by his side, feeling he might become an excellent specimen. Soon after, Peter received an invitation from Daniel's escort team. Peter said to G1 on the phone, "Don't you find it funny?" Daniel knows Peter entered the hospital, yet he still can't find him anywhere. G1 snapped, "Funny my ass. Have you lost your mind, old man? If you get caught, all of us are dead." Peter calmly hung up. He still didn't know what the escort unit was, so he stood up, thinking he'd understand once he went there. A doctor told him, "For a D class, you've risen fast." Normally, the professor doesn't select escort personnel. The doctor handed Peter a key card that granted access to every area of the hospital and instructed him to remember 3 rules when serving that person. First, never speak before the professor asks. Second, never question anything the professor does. And third, under no circumstances should he refuse that person's favor. Peter didn't understand what favor meant, nor why the doctor seemed so nervous. The doctor urged him, "Let's hurry." The professor doesn't like waiting. The doctor then respectfully said to the professor that, as instructed, he had brought Mr. Kim Soon-gu. Daniel said calmly, "Good, not late. Then let's begin the consultation." Peter knew this would not be easy to get through. Daniel's personal soldiers were known as the C-type undertakers, each at least equal to a D-class assassin. They were foreigners drenched in the scent of blood, not part of glory nor loyal to it, but loyal only to their king, existing solely for Daniel. The entire hospital was now acting under Daniel's direct orders. All entrances had been sealed, and the net was closing in. Blood collection from all elderly matching Peter's age had been completed, and analysis would take around 48 hours. No matter how skilled Peter was at disguise, he could never deceive DNA. The assassin doctors understood that since he couldn't escape, he was already a trapped prey. It was only a matter of time before they caught him. And Peter heard their entire plan clearly, though he knew Daniel would not fall for such bait easily. During the consultation, Daniel gently asked about the patient's condition and arranged the surgical plan as he usually did. Peter couldn't understand. If Daniel chose him as an escort, he must want something. So why hold such a pointless consultation? Suddenly, Daniel asked whether he was disappointed as an escort who had nothing to do, and whether it was because he failed to show the dignity befitting an apostle. He told Peter to follow him, saying there was something he wanted to show him. And on all the blueprints and maps, this place did not exist. Peter had no idea which floor they were on or what lay at the end of the stairs. He began wondering what Daniel intended to show him. Soon he understood. Daniel had committed acts that would enrage gods and humans alike. Daniel said proudly, "This is where I realize my ideals." He asked whether Peter had interest in biology. After learning he had basic knowledge, Daniel smiled, saying that would make communication easier. He quoted Darwin, saying all life evolved through natural selection, shaped by chance with no inherent superiority. But Daniel said coldly, Darwin was wrong. Evolution isn't guided by gods, nature, or chance. It is guided by me. He claimed that saving the frail and sick was pointless, and that removing weaknesses, preserving strength, and fostering it was the only treatment that held value. He was just about to explain why Peter's face caught his attention when a sharp red alarm suddenly blared. A broadcast announced that an experimental subject in the underground ward had escaped, and all researchers must lock their doors until the security team suppressed it. Another alert. The subjects injected A1 receptor had been activated to stage 4. The test subject was now uncontrollably berserk. Even with multiple tranquilizer darts, its strength remained overwhelming. All exits to the surface were about to close, and at its current speed, it would definitely reached the surface before the doors shut. But suddenly, the wall beside Daniel shattered. Daniel thrust his hand through the broken wall, grabbing the subject in an iron grip. He said in a low voice, "We are discussing something extremely important. How do we let a mere test subject interrupt us?" From the other side of the wall came the sound of bones cracking and agonized screams. And soon everything fell back into dead silence. Daniel apologized to Peter. "Now, let's return to our main topic. I like strong people. That's why I've torn open, peeled apart, and dissected the muscles, tendons, and even every cell of the strong, because there's a man I desperately wish to surpass. Mr. Kim Seung-gu, I saw potential in you. Few people your age possess such strength. Through you, I want to witness the results of my evolution. Just how strong will you become after evolving? Simply imagining it is exhilarating, isn't it? Please accept my blessing. With my abilities, I can make you A-class, perhaps even as strong as an apostle." From the earpiece, Ji-won was shocked. Daniel was extremely dangerous, able to punch through a test subject's skull with his bare hands. And Peter understood the even more terrifying fact. Daniel could sense movement beyond the wall and time his strike perfectly to crush the subject's skull. Seeing how dangerous the situation was, Ji-won said, "Senior, maybe you should give up and get out now." But giving up was impossible for him, because he was also very curious about the source of that power. Ji-won sighed helplessly. Who could stop a stubborn old man? "But senior, didn't your blood get analyzed together with the elder's blood? You'll expose your identity sooner or later." Peter replied that he had a plan. He intended to swap the test results. 48 hours had passed, so the report should now be in Daniel's room. And he planned to use the escort's master keycard to enter. Ji-won snapped, "You're insane. What if you get caught?" But he knew that wouldn't happen, because he had plenty of time. It was now 2:53 a.m. During the consultation, he had precisely measured Daniel's average consultation time, which gave him a full 4 minutes and 30 seconds. As long as he switched the results within that window, everything would be fine. Daniel's consultation proceeded normally, every step following the usual pattern. He asked his subordinate whether the comparison results for the elder's blood sample were ready. The subordinate answered that the report had already been placed in his room. But after comparing all the blood samples, they still found none that matched Peter's. Daniel found this amusing. Under normal circumstances, such a result should be impossible. A subordinate suggested, could Peter be hiding somewhere like the ceiling? Daniel told him to use his imagination. Was it possible that Peter was no longer the person they remembered? At that moment, Peter was shocked. He had timed everything perfectly to sneak into the office, yet Daniel returned early. Daniel asked coldly why a mere D-class killer would enter a room without its owner present. He demanded that Peter explain why he was here. Peter knew Daniel had repeated the same consultation pattern for the past 2 days, but there were still 2 minutes and 30 seconds left before it should have ended. And he suddenly realized that those patterns might have been staged on purpose. Whether it was urging him to accept the blessing or proudly showing the underground secrets, were all those meant to make him believe Daniel had been fooled? Had Daniel suspected him from the beginning? Several counter-strategies flashed through Peter's mind. Then he smiled and said, "I'm here to deliver this to you. I don't know what it is. Dr. Hong told me to bring it to you immediately." But Daniel suddenly grabbed him as he tried to leave, noticing the subtle marks left from flipping through the pages, nothing like someone unaware of its contents, and asked coldly, "Why are you interested in the elderly men's blood samples recorded here? A man who claims not to know what this file is. What exactly made you curious about it? What were you trying to see while hiding in my room? If you can't answer, then the truth is obvious." Peter interrupted him and said seriously, "Even if tone, gestures, appearance, and expressions can be disguised, there's one thing that can never be hidden. Do you know what that is? DNA. If you can't catch Peter, then it means he may no longer look like the old man we know. It was my arrogance. I wanted to capture Peter so badly that I acted rashly. I'm sorry, Professor. I should have asked for your permission first." He understood. If Daniel suspected him, he could use that suspicion against him. As expected, Daniel told him to lift his head and said calmly, "You got something on your face. Working hard is good, but you must not lose the dignity of a glory member. You may leave." Peter thanked him and turned to leave. Daniel did not expect that what he had touched was real skin, not a mask, not makeup, but an actual young man's skin, thus eliminating the possibility that Kim Seung-gu was Peter. Daniel crushed the tablet in his hand. He wondered, damn it, Peter, where exactly are you hiding? This man was the champion berserker of the underground arena. His specialty was lethal kicks, known worldwide as the strongest legs. One day, Daniel asked him, "Is that true? Are you really the strongest legs in the world?" And then he tore off the legs that had earned that title. He also took the world's hardest fists, and the strongest among them, once facing Daniel, all ended up crippled. Even the world-class crime syndicates. Daniel pinned every last one of them into the ceiling, defeating every strong man in the world. Yet before dying, all of them told Daniel, "You can't become the strongest. Not unless the man named Peter is no longer alive." Daniel had heard that name countless times. He was sick of it. He wondered who Peter really was and what he should do to meet him. To become the strongest man in the world, he had to meet Peter. Daniel thought that the last person who saw Peter should know where he was. He ordered his men to bring that woman. Soon, A-class funeralist Santos found Lee Yuna. He ordered her to meet the professor immediately, no questions asked. The Dugu brothers were shocked. Who exactly was Yuna to know him? Daniel said calmly, "Miss Lee Yuna, you may be the first person who survived an apostle. One of the strongest beings, almost impossible to resist." At first, Daniel thought Peter had spared her on a whim. Yet after fighting A-class Park Sang-do, Lee Yuna survived. She only knew how to use a knife, nothing special. How did a mere D-class assassin manage to stay alive? Yuna thought, "He has no evidence. I just need to pretend I know nothing." Daniel suddenly pressed her. Did a miracle happen to Miss Lee Yuna? The apostles, including myself, have a hypothesis. From the 8-people base to Park Sang-do's chamber, Peter helped you behind the scenes. And as payment, you made some sort of deal with him. A girl from an orphanage, with nothing except her body. What could you offer Peter? Don't tell me you became a double agent. Daniel cut her off. It's fine. I know you had no choice. Since you can't abandon your younger brother to die. I heard your brother Eugene has had hemophilia for years, and his last 3 years must have been hell from complications. He's so young, pitiful, but I can save him. Glory Hospital's 4.5 billion won serum can cure him with a single injection. So, Miss Lee Yuna, you should know who you ought to help. Peter said he'll come see me on October 24th. Whatever he asks you to do, you will report it to me, and you will lure him to the clock tower in the lobby at 2 p.m. on the 24th. That's all. You'll just serve as bait. Daniel reminded her that earning 4.5 billion in 3 years was impossible, and saving her brother meant helping him catch Peter, a win-win deal. He added softly, "I'll assign you a room using this medical prescription." Yuna didn't understand what he meant, until sharp pain shot through her wrist. Daniel had crushed her wrist bone. He said coldly, "In my hospital, no one stays without being sick. If you refuse, you'll soon see who receives this prescription instead. See you at the next consultation. I await good news." Lee Yuna was placed in room 604. She knew that if Daniel discovered Kim Seung-gu had been helping her, she, her brother, and Kim would all die. But if she did well, Eugene could live. She didn't know what to do. Someone called from outside. "Patient." Peter smiled. "Time for your injection." Yuna was shocked. "Are you insane? Why are you here?" Peter said he came because the national singing contest was airing now. Yuna snapped. "Is this a joke?" Peter asked, puzzled. "Why do you keep driving me away?" "It's because of Daniel, isn't it? Also, what happened to your arm?" "I'm your teacher, but I don't recall ever breaking my student's arm." He told her to say who did it. Her expression darkened, and she asked him, "What will you do on October 24th?" She told him to meet her at 2 p.m. at the clock tower. She had something to say. It was the best option she had. From her expression and injuries, Peter guessed the truth and agreed. Tears fell onto Yuna's photo with her brother Eugene. She asked the boy in the photo, Eugene, whether what she was doing was right, but she had no other choice. October 24th arrived quickly. Daniel had waited a long time for this day, because today was the day Peter promised to come find him. Daniel could barely contain his excitement. So he asked Lee Yuna, "Where is Peter now?" Yuna paused for a moment and said he should be on his way. The clock tower's hand soon pointed to 2 p.m. Yuna's expression became unfocused. That night, Eugene called her. After seeing her profile picture, he asked excitedly, "Sis, do you have 3 boyfriends?" Yuna sighed and explained they were just her friends. Eugene said he wanted to play soccer with her friends, and in 3 years, he wanted to go with them to the international match and cheer for their country. Yuna promised she would take him then, but Eugene refused. He hated taking planes, so he didn't want to go, and he thought plane tickets were too expensive. Yuna told the child not to worry about money and just get ready to enjoy the match. She'd already found a way. The doctor said the new treatment serum worked amazingly. 1 shot would cure him, so he wasn't allowed to talk negatively. Holding back the pain in her wrist, Yuna said she was sleepy and told Eugene good night, then ended the call. She had no other way. This was the best choice she could make. So she prayed Kim Seung-gu would keep his promise. The time on the clock tower passed 2 p.m. Daniel's smile slowly faded. He asked Yuna why Peter hadn't come. The meeting place he arranged with her was the clock tower in the hospital lobby. Meanwhile, Peter was standing under the clock tower in the park, wondering why Lee Yuna was late. After all, she had clearly emphasized that day, the clock tower in the park. Yuna knew that if Daniel discovered the one who killed the 8 people wasn't Peter, but Kim Seung-gu, Kim would definitely die. Now the counters, service desks, and lobby were filled with Daniel's men. No matter how strong Kim was, coming here would be far too dangerous. So Yuna hoped Kim Seung-gu had simply run away. Ever since the suspicious Kim Seung-gu first appeared, she had never put down her doubts. But it was also the first time she realized how happy it felt to eat with someone. And the first time she shared joyful moments with someone. The first time she relied on someone in a moment of crisis. And Kim Seung-gu, you were also the first person who tried to seriously figure out what I'm good at, and thought carefully on my behalf. So how could I possibly betray someone like that? Daniel asked coldly, "Miss Lee Yuna, what is going on?" Yuna's voice trembled as she said, "After that day, I never saw that Grandpa Peter again. He never contacted me. You said you'd treat my brother, so I lied. I really haven't seen him. I'm sorry." She fell to her knees, saying she truly knew nothing, but she could do anything. She was good at cleaning, and she had been training hard. So she begged him not to harm her brother. Daniel said sternly, "Miss Lee Yuna, you still failed to bring Peter. It's unfortunate, but there is no helping it. I must eliminate you. Since you couldn't bring Peter, you have no value left." At that moment, the fire alarm suddenly blared, and the announcement told all staff and patients to stay calm and evacuate. The Duga brothers also rushed out to escape. All emergency exits in the hospital closed simultaneously. The Duga brothers who had already escaped had no idea what was happening, while a large number of people were still trapped inside the hospital. Daniel frowned. Why was there no smell of smoke? He ordered his men to check. Yuna was also confused. Where did a fire suddenly come from? Suddenly, the broadcast asked, "Student Lee Yuna, why are you crying? Didn't I already arrive?" Yuna froze. "Kim Seung-gu, why are you here?" He countered, "Didn't we agree to meet in front of the clock tower?" He knew that if there were a real fire, normal people would run towards safety, but none of these people were escaping, which meant they were neither real medical staff nor patients, but assassins waiting here for a chance to kill him. Daniel was puzzled by the me in Kim Seung-gu's words and asked if he had come to rescue Lee Yuna. Daniel had long known Kim Seung-gu wasn't an ordinary person, which was exactly why he had taken interest in him. But standing here now were members of the Undertaker Society of City C. In the distant slums of City C, children rarely lived long enough to grow up. Most of them died young. Because someone died there every day, the place was called the Undertaker Village, where the law was survival of the fittest. Kidnapping, drugs, illegal trades. The Undertaker Society, controlling all these dark industries, had become the strongest organization in Country G. And today, the strongest 100 survivors from there were present. Daniel asked, "Well, do you have the confidence to take on 100? Mr. Seung-gu, as I said before, I see potential in you, meaning you're a tiger cub. If raised under my care, you could grow into the strongest predator. But for now, you can't beat a true beast. So stop playing childish friendship games. Submit to me, and I will raise you properly." Kim Seung-gu didn't answer. He only shrugged. Daniel instantly understood what that meant. 2 B-class killers from the Undertaker Society leapt down, shouting arrogantly, "You won't live long." B-class tiger cub. Yet in the next instant, the two arrogant B-class killers were already dead. The sight shocked everyone present. Daniel hadn't expected Kim Soon-gu to kill them without even glancing upward, and with a direct, lethal strike. Kim Soon-gu asked Daniel, "Well, do you still see me as a tiger cub?"